We are super, super excited for this webinar, and thank you so much to everyone for joining. Generally, with these webinars, we often focus on some corded functionality. So if anybody was here last month, we showed you just different searches that you can do within corded that we recommend. I think one of the reasons I'm so excited for this webinar is we want to talk about how can you excel at everything that you do outside of corded. So what is a playbook that has nothing to do with corded, at least at first, that really can accelerate your success in agent recruiting? And so we have a bunch of questions that our customers have sent in that we're excited to get Val and Sean's point of view on. But before we get into any of the questions, wanted to just quickly ask Val and Sean to introduce yourselves. And I can quickly go first. I'm Chris Camp. Many of you probably know me. I lead customer success here at Corded.
Val, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to let you're the big guy. I'm Val Burmester. I've been a realtor in Seattle for 18 years. And then the past 4.5, 5 years, I've been helping recruit to multiple Sotheby's around the country.
Sounds great. Val, thanks so much for joining. I'm Sean. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Corded. So really excited to see a number of our esteemed customers on the call today. Val's been doing an amazing job actually helping some of our customers with their recruiting. So I'm really excited to dive into that. I used to lead national expansion and growth at Compass. So spend a lot of time thinking about recruiting, thinking about growth, doing the recruiting itself. Hopefully it's a slightly different conversation than a product demo today. We're going to hopefully talk about some of the best practices, problems that we've encountered, and hopefully just get everyone in the swing of it. We love if people ask questions throughout. Please use the chat to do that. And looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. Yeah, if everybody actually, just so we have a record of it, I think people will be able to see it. If you just want to use the Q&A feature for any questions, that'd be perfect. Okay. So I wanted to start off just to get the conversation kicked off by asking Val, you and Sean, why is agent recruiting so important, but particularly why is it so important kind of right now? And in addition to that, why can it be so difficult?
I'll jump in. That's okay, Jason. I think it's extremely important now because I think with all the disruptors in the industry, we're losing a lot of people. I'll make calls and I know everyone on this call will make. I made a call yesterday and it's a gentleman whose family, his wife is, you need to go and get a real job because he's only done $4 or $5 million this year. And so the inconsistency of our market and what's going on from interest rates to COVID to just multiple disruptors, this NAR commission lawsuit, all of it is a disruption. I can't talk today. But anyway, I'm watching more people leave than actually come in to the industry. And so right now, it's more important to recruit than ever because we need to keep filling. We have to pay for the offices. So even though people have downsized and done different things for their office culture, I think it's more important now than ever.
Yeah, I think I'd add to that. 30-year fixed rate mortgage is about 7.7%. The rates are high, transactions are not happening. Financially, we have fixed costs at the brokerage level. And so recruiting can be a perfect foil to that, right? To counteract the flow market. And I think by the nature of people being on this phone call, these are the people who are not on the sidelines, which is really exciting. And I think that speaks to the innovation and the recognition of that point. I just want to share one or two things really quickly. I did a webinar with the National Association of Realtors on Friday. We ran a couple of analyses that are quite hard to track down if you don't have a data scientist doing it. So if I could, I'm just going to share a really quick slide and a little bit of data. So if you can see this here, Chris, can you see the slide?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So basically, just trying to understand some of the migration insights over the last 12 months. So in the prior 12 months to the year that just ended, about 17% productive agents went to a new firm. Over the last 12 months, that increased to 25%. So more productive agents across different sales volume segments are moving between companies, which is interesting. Basically, that's a big opportunity for everyone on this call. I think another component, and Val, I'm sure you're going to talk a little bit about how do we balance which segments to recruit and things like that, if we're thinking about that top producer group, which we're broadly defining as they've done 25 million in sales volume or more in a year, 10% of those in the last 12 months moved from one company to another, which I think is a staggering number, 2x what it was in the prior year. So the year before it was 5% of top producers moving. Now 10% of top producers moving. So that by itself is a big opportunity. But the largest opportunity from a recruited sales volume and recruited commission perspective was actually focused in the $1 to $5 million segment. So that segment is actually represents 4 times larger of a revenue opportunity than the brand new agents who are 0 to 1 million in production. So I guess maybe that is a TN2 question I might ask it, right? So Val, you've worked with a variety of companies across price points, across regions in the United States that probably could recruit top producers and luxury agents, could also recruit brand new agents and maybe something in between. How do you, when you're helping to set up a recruiting function and when you're guiding your clients and actually doing the recruiting, how do you even balance your time and where do you advise companies spend across the different segments of agents?
Well, I think, sir, we have to have conversations with the big whales because they're a longer process and a longer relationship to get them over. They take forever. They're in their business. They're doing well. They're growing their teams. So they're harder and they take sometimes up to 5 years to recruit. So you have to spend time recruiting them and letting them know you still want them. The mid-range for me is my most successful and it's different in every market, but I'm just going to say between 7 and 18 million. That's a really good mid-range in a lot of markets. I'd probably spend a little more time there just because there's more agents there than there are in the other ones. But I still spend, but that's a really strong one. That's where the movement is. And I love I know I'm not supposed to just tell how much I love this product. Corded has really, you can see where they've been and where they're going and that it helps to define better agents and just watching what their goals are. But yeah, I spend most of my time in that, but I still spend time on the newer agents to the brand. We don't really at Sotheby's do a lot of newer agents, but there is still that kind of 2 to 5 million where they're just staying and floating in that area where they need to grow and elevate. And what are they not getting at their current brokerage that we can help take them to that next level?
And just asked a really good question, actually, which is, are you seeing, Val, you have the benefit of actually being on the front line doing recruiting across a variety of markets. So I think you're in a really good position to answer that. Are you starting to see agents jumping from either the traditional model to a discount or a multi-level type model or vice versa? What are you seeing in terms of those patterns?
Almost every conversation is the split, right? But it's the value proposition of what your company has. I am not seeing that. I'm seeing more people leave those discount brokers and actually come to a company that offers a lot of support, marketing, education, and just collaboration. Those are the things that everyone's looking for.
Mhm.
I don't think people going the opposite way, which I like her question because a couple of years ago, I would say during COVID, I watched a ton of agents head to the discount brokers, but not
Mhm.
switched it.
Yeah. Wanted to just, going back to, you mentioned the amount of time spent on each segment being a third. I'm curious if you can give us just a sense of kind of your approach to some of those really large producers. You mentioned that's a 5-year process and how that differs from more of the 7 to $18 million range or whatever the kind of target range that you have is. And in addition to how that differs as well from the people who are newer. Yeah, just what's like when you get on the phone with somebody, what are some of the first things that you say based on what segment they're in?
Likely the first time I've spoken to them, they've already been talked to by our CEO or our leadership or a manager. So it's always a great conversation that I can jump in and say, I know you've spoken to our CEO or our manager in charge. And I just say, we would love to have you over here. And we're watching you, but is there something you're not getting over there? Are you not getting the marketing? Are you not getting the support for your staff or your team? So I just dig a little bit more, but it's almost a more casual conversation because they definitely have already spoken to us. And most of them have their own systems in place because they're leaders. That's why they're ahead of the game, right? That's why they're the big whale. They usually have their own marketing, they have their own TC, they have their own assistant. So they think they're on a little island. But what they don't realize is that some of the wheel they're spinning, we probably can offset that and help them even in a further way. Or are they working the referral network, or are they getting referral period, or from the resources that we have? Each office is different. Are they working with our relocation company? Are they, so mostly it's marketing, support, and then are they getting anything in the referral network?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Seems like your process is a lot around, especially with the big whales, just approaching it more from like the standpoint of curiosity. So asking
Yeah.
questions, hey, understand you're doing really well, but what are you missing? Is there anything that you're missing?
Most likely with the whales, we truly just think, we just want to take you to lunch, because they're not going to stay on the phone as much as somebody that is in the first level. But usually it's just, hey, we want to go grab lunch, and don't you want to know what we're doing over here? I love that conversation very quickly comes, don't you want to know what we're doing over here? Most people are happy, right? I love happy people. I love happy agents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you love over there? Because the first thing they say when you say, what do you love about your brokerage? And I love my manager. We know that's our biggest hurdle, right? I love the support they're giving. What kind of support are they giving you? Oh, they're giving me, I have everything at if I want anything, my broker, I can call my broker on demand at midnight, which everyone hates, but they start to open up by telling you what they love. Those are the hurdles that I have to make sure we have or we are better at. But getting them to lunch or even a glass of wine or coffee,
Yeah.
they'll do that. And because it's a less pressure, they're like, let's just go have a relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I just want to reemphasize it for everyone. Basically, about saying, ask somebody what the things that they love about their current brokerage are. The first three things out of their mouth, whether it's I love my broker, I love the support that I get, something else. Those, as Val said, those are your three biggest hurdles, and those are the things that that you then have to prove out, and that's a great way and kind of framework of thinking about it. Great.
And that's how we cater our offers too.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So if we were to move down market lightly, so if we were to look in that 7 to 18 range, right, or whatever that kind of profitable middle agent looks like, what do you think what are some of the struggles maybe that you've encountered in the first point of outreach, whether it's you doing it or you helping to guide a team that's doing it? What are those key struggles? And then how do you try to overcome those? If it's first time we're talking to somebody or we're lucky enough to have them on the phone.
It's their comfortability of where they are. Change. Nobody likes change. And sorry, more distraction, guy walking up to the door. It truly is. And nobody likes change. Nobody wants to. I think when people have moved from a brokerage to another brokerage, they don't have their signs, their Facebook's not up, their emails are not up, everything's not in place. And they feel like that's a disruption. And with so many other disruptions going on, they need some accountability. And so that accountability falls on us. I assure them that we will have that already. When somebody walks in our door, it's all done. We have a whole pre-onboarding process. And I think that's to reassure them that what's going to change? Nothing's going to change. You're still going to be Jason walking in that door and getting that listing, but you're going to have the most beautiful presentation. Your name's going to already be on everything. We'll have your printed material out ready to go to a listing the very next day. And it's just reassuring that it's going to be okay and that we're here to support them. And then the other thing we do is we're like, so-and-so just came over. I think you're friends with her. Why don't you give her a call and ask her how her transition went? Because that's really important, is if they hear that the transition went poorly, and it happens. I don't care what brokerage you are. You can be the best. Something could fall apart. And then I know a big agent in LA, it was a disaster, but she loves our brokerage and she'll never leave now, but it was not a good transition. So we learn from that and then we make sure so I think that's the biggest hurdle with them. And then they always sometimes it's the culture. They love the culture so much that they're never going to leave that office because that's their bestie. They go to work with their besties every day.
Yeah.
I think that's a harder hurdle to get over than even a managing broker that they love, is they love their tribe.
Yeah. So on that point, we just had an interesting question come in from Katie, which is, how do you balance the extent of the pre-onboarding process that you just mentioned. So both the time put into it as well as the tangible items when sometimes agents back out last minute. And how do you avoid agents backing out last minute? I think is another question in there.
That's hilarious because I was that agent. I was at a local brokerage in Seattle for 10 years. And I went and interviewed with Sotheby's because they were the new person in town, kind of what's going on. I wanted to know what they were doing. That's always good knowledge. And I was so ready to go. I told them I was coming over and then I backed out. So they had already ordered my signs and my business cards. And then a year later, something happened and I jumped ship and they're like, we already have everything ready. So it was funny. They were ready for me because I was, oh, look there. I was that agent that was so afraid of change that I didn't move over. It is an expense, but I feel like if you've had enough meetings, because one meeting, they're not coming over. You have 2 meetings, 3 meetings, getting them in front of marketing, getting them in front of our referral network, having them talk to other agents around the country if they don't want to talk to someone in a small community of people that have actually come over to the brand and what we talk about and what we say is really true. I think that by the time they say yes, they're coming over. So once we have a verbal, if we have a verbal and we also, I don't know if any of you out there are using Quiller, but Quiller is a great program to put a nice presentation and offer in. We use Quiller a lot. So once they've signed and accepted the Quiller, which has the entire contract in it, not the entire contract, but it's the offer. It's the basics. It's what you're split, what we're giving in marketing dollars, what we're going to do, what our promise to you is. That's in the Quiller. And once they hit accept, then we set up an appointment to get them in and look and do the ICA. And then we can't really have in many markets have them sign the ICA until they actually are onboarded because it's against the MLS. But in some markets we can. But at that point, we feel like they've accepted our offer on Quiller and we can start that process. So then we have a meeting with them to get we send them a sheet that has we want their LinkedIn, we want their Facebook, their Instagram, we want their emails, the sign in, their passwords. We do everything ahead of schedule. And yes, I would say there's some cost in that, but there's only been 2 agents in the past 5 years that have not come over that since I've been recruiting from New York to LA. Only 2. So we had a little shakeup this morning where somebody was coming on board May 22nd and they postponed our meeting to onboard them today. And then it's because there's a disruption in this particular market. And, but we all got on the phone and called and said, look, this is what we're going to offer you. We offered a little more. We offered her something unique. And I think we got her back. But her stuff is already ordered because she did sign on Quiller that she accepted it, but she has not signed the ICA.
There's a concept there, which is try to get the agents to understand that you're starting this process, right? So give me the information I need to go spend money on your behalf now, and to make that pretty clear. If there's something an IPA or something we can find ahead of time, great. If you're more formalizing that process with Quiller or another tool, great. I think a couple of things that I've seen, again, Val, you're referring to this, a great company with many departments and many different resources, but no single point of accountability. No one person who's the quarterback to that process can feel like I'm going to get bounced around and maybe I'm going to get dropped out of that process somehow because someone didn't pick up the next step. So where I've seen it work really well is even if they're not doing all of the work, one single person who's going to shepherd them through the whole process so they know who exactly to call when there's some kind of an issue or if they have a question. Another thing that we used to do at Compass was these serendipitous interactions with agents at the final stages of the process. So in that final meeting in the office, what we would do is we'd find an agent who is just like them 2 or 3 years ago, who had a great onboarding, tripled their business since they joined. And I'd have them knock on the window to ask, spend some time with me, and this little choreograph. And as they actually know I'm in the middle of a meeting, but why don't you talk to Chris? And then I would leave. And then it would be that kind of, I'm meeting a new friend in the office who's going to tell me straight. And we even could incentivize agents to do that if they're interested in participating in the recruiting process. That was another thing that was not just a full sales process. It's also bringing in the agent, bringing in the TC, bringing in the marketing associate. Those are the types of roles that you had to try to make it feel really personal and to start building some of that confidence in the upcoming onboarding process.
Yeah, makes total sense. Sean, do you have a, that seems like such an effective tactic. Do you have a sense, just even anecdotally, what you feel like the conversion rate was on cases where you would actually bring somebody into the office and have that kind of just for fun?
Yeah, I think once we were getting people into the office, the conversion rate was exceptionally high. So if we could get them, maybe if it was a big producer, to that point, there's a confidential meeting outside in some place where no other agent going to be, that type of a thing. But then once we could get people at the meeting, probably 80%, it was successful once we got to that point. I think switching gears slightly, Val, I guess we think about top of the funnel, right? That kind of first point of outreach. We talk a lot with our customers about what channel do I use to reach out to an agent? Is it email? When it's email, is it personalized, or is it the easy email that I can get out that sends everyone kind of the same message? Or is it text? Or is it a phone call? Or some kind of combination of the above? Like, how do you think about that? Some things are easy for us, right? To just send everyone the same email. Some things are more time consuming, like picking up the phone and making a call and having 3 people not pick up the call before you get in touch with somebody. So how do you think about that as if someone on the call is designing their own recruiting process? What's the right way to think about that? And does that differ by segment also?
Yeah, great question, Sean. I never email or text anyone because I get those all the time as an agent, and they're so not personal. I know they're a canned letter. I even had somebody send me, "When pigs fly, she'll call me back." Like, they left one message and with a text, and then they sent that. I was like, "You're a recruiter? Okay, good luck with that." But and she still is recruited because a year later I'm still getting the same text. But I think it's just you don't text or email clients to get them. You actually pick up the phone or go to their door and meet them. However, as an agent, you are prospecting. You never would do it. We definitely are. We send stuff out in our sphere, but it's a little different for an agent. But I think the best way is to make a phone call. And I usually make 3. And if they never return the phone call, they're not interested. But I always call and say, "This is Val. I'm with Sotheby's and I'd love to have a conversation with you." And I usually get a phone call back. And if I don't, they go on my bad list. Or I put them on because they don't know why I'm calling, really. I don't tell them who I am. I want to see if they'll respond because agents should pick up the phone and respond to everybody. How do they know I'm not a client that wants to sell a house? Even though I'm Sotheby's or if you say Keller Williams or Compass or whatever, they should call you back. It's a polite thing. So it shows me, one, their integrity right away. And then once I get a conversation with them, then the first thing they say is, "I'm really happy." I'm like, "What are you happy about?" Or, "I just switched brokerages." And I said, "I see that, but I just want you to know if things don't work out over there, that we are watching you and cheering you on." You got to build them up and you have to say wonderful things about them. Or, "Wow, I talked to somebody today and I said, 'You're doing something right, but your average sales price, I'd love to elevate that.'" You just bring it something different, but you're not knocking their sales price because I've already said, "I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something right." And he said he likes the company. He loves the education. He loves how they give him support, all good things. And then you say, "What kind of support?" And then you dig a little deeper, but you can get a lot out of a phone call. I also find that I do a lot of research before I pick up the phone. First of all, we've identified who we want to call. We just don't call anybody. And then I look on their Instagram, but you have to dig a little bit. And then I always find out if we have mutual friends or they did a deal with us recently, with someone in our office. I call that person in our office and say, "How did it go? Were they responsive? Were they professional?" So there's so many ways you can you do research. So research, prospect, research, retain, and retain is what I say. And that works.
Yeah. I think, that process that you just described of calling and saying, "Hey, I'm Val, I'm from Sotheby's and I'd like to have a conversation," and then just letting the agent's curiosity take over, is something that is, I think, really a good tip and could be really effective. I'm curious if you think that would work and just like how you think about and balance. You have the benefit of Sotheby's, which is a very kind of like well-known brand, but how you would recommend whether that approach would differ or whether you still think it would work really well with a slightly less well-known brand, perhaps.
No, because I think it's a respect thing. I think that if agents don't call back, I think that's a little bit of a red flag. That they're only going to pick and choose what they want and who they want in their life, which we have to be open to every conversation. And you can read any book on a successful person of being shut down at some point in their life, from Bill Gates to Warren Buffett. But once they always say they return phone calls, they were gracious. And to me, that's the kind of agents that are going to be out there representing my company, whatever company it is. And I want that respect. So if they don't return a phone call after 3 phone calls, I don't want them.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yep.
even if they're big. And I can call with ABC Realty, they should call me back. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it can be. I like that point. It can be a really good filtering function for finding the exact people that you want. Nice.
Yeah. It's just common decency to call people back.
Yeah, that's the hope. Gal, I have a slightly different question, which is around the organizational structure that people deploy towards recruiting, right? So there's basically a very large continuum of models in terms of how people are organized for recruiting. I know, looking at the list here, we have some centralized organizations where there are dedicated recruiters, others where we have really talented managers that are splitting the responsibilities across recruiting and retention. I'd love for you to maybe talk about those two ends of the spectrum. So like when it's centralized, what do you need to believe, or what's true about that organization when it works? And then when it works, when the managers are doing it, what do you need to believe? What are the ingredients for success in that kind of distributed model?
When I feel like I've been hired as a recruiter for corporate, right? And I was the only one doing recruiting. The managers are supposed to be recruiting too, but they don't have time. They get pulled in different directions. They're time blocking. They could set up every Friday at 9 a.m., but there can be some fiasco an agent's having, right? But if you go to lunch, just sit down, make one phone call. I'm recruiting for multiple offices right now, and they're all so different. And it's crazy because I do set time blocks, and even I, squirrel, have to go a different direction because somebody calls me back and I spend an hour on the phone when that agent finally calls back from a different office. So I've got to be able to pivot just like the managers do. But you absolutely have to have some time blocking. And even if you don't get to it, if you have to move it, when I move a time block, I move it to an empty space that I have a time block, open time block. If all of a sudden my Monday morning meeting or call for one Sotheby's gets changed, I move it immediately to an open. So I have one day where it's all open because I have my time block. I think it's really important that it's not just one person. I think it's a village. And I think that the minute you involve everybody, I have weekly meetings with every manager that I recruit for, and I have a weekly meeting with the owner. And then I do a recap. And these are the meetings, these are upcoming meetings, these are the follow-ups, who's following up, where is that? And I have to say, Corded has helped immensely because it's so easy to make so many more phone calls because you do the app button and you text, you notify the manager the conversation right away. And then I can go back to those and create a weekly report for them, which here where we are, what did we do? And then they're responding back. We have our relocation person on there. And when I make a note, I send it to everybody that is pivotable. That's the marketing, the CEO, all brokers in charge, because one broker in charge, even though it's a different area, might have worked with this agent at one point. So it's really important to involve everybody. And I even have the marketing person will send me over a week and a note. Hey, I used to know this agent. She's awesome. I went to college with her. Or I got one the other day that this is my wife's best friend. We should talk to her. So it's just this engaging. And so then everybody's involved and then we're all working. So like today, when we have that agent who, all of a sudden may not come over, even though she's committed, there was all this great communication. We were all like heavily invested in bringing this agent on. So it wasn't just me. I'm the first phone call. I create the relationship, how to elevate them, how to bring them to our company and the things that they're missing. And I'm able to dissect a little bit more of maybe they won't tell the broker in charge or the owner that, the marketing over here is awful. That's the only thing I don't love, but I love everything else. I'm like, let's talk about that. So I will set up the appointments with myself or someone, but it really is a village. And if the village isn't involved, then it just makes the brokers more successful as well, right? They give money from everyone brought into the office. But I'm taking away a lot of their time to do the cold calling. And that's really important for a recruiter. But I'm working with 2 ladies up in Massachusetts, and they're still making calls. We're doing them together, and I'm coaching them how to do it. So it's a little different because they're a super small affiliate and they can't afford to have me full time. So they may get 1 hour a week from me, but I'm showing them how to make the calls and how to time block. And there's weeks that it's silent. I don't get anything from them, but I understand that. But they have somebody that could actually do it for them when it's a quiet week. And I do. I know who we're calling. I have a spreadsheet because they can't even forward it. I wish they would. We're going to get them to that point.
And
I hope that answers that, John.
yeah, it's super helpful. And so I guess a couple of questions. One, let's say you have a recruiter who's actually, and many people on the call either have them or thinking about bringing on a recruiter. What is the expectation, or if we use a more formal term, the SLA between the recruiter and the manager? Some recruiter has done a great job of finding the agent, getting them excited. Okay, they're ready to come into the office for a meeting. Now there's a handoff to the manager. What is the expectation of how quickly the manager is going to react to that and get on top of that? Is it a few minutes? Is it a few hours? Is it permissible that they can spend 2 days before responding to the email? I'm curious how those handoffs work when it worked well.
Beautiful thing of the CEOs I'm working with is they are asking how responsive the managers are. And the more we've done this, the more responsive they are. And sometimes I'll actually pick up the phone or text the manager and say, this one's urgent. This one wants to meet tomorrow. This one's thinking of making a change. So it's urgency too. I just made an appointment for somebody in Little Rock for June 20th at 2:00. I'm in all their schedules so I can go ahead and book everything. And so I booked it. And then during this meeting, I got an email back with a thumbs up. So it's going to work, right? And if it doesn't work, they get on the phone with me right away and say, oh, I'm on vacation that week. I just don't have it in my, and then I just pivot. But it's pretty quick. I know they're doing meetings and a lot of them are selling themselves. So I'm just trying to make their life easy. And communication is the key, whether it's a text, a phone call, or me planning the appointments. It's good to know. One thing that I think is one of the most important things, believe it or not, is knowing very quiet conversation places. Starbucks are not great. So if you are recruiting in like Chicago, for example, I had to know where in Barrington was a really quiet coffee shop. That was not every agent, and it's not ever across the street from your brokerage or their brokerage, so that you just don't run into people. And then we'd always have a code word. If you did see somebody, I'm Val from Seattle. That's it. So that nobody knows. But if it's the owner and everybody knows the owner, and then all of a sudden the top at another company is sitting there, they could just be talking about real estate. Oh, hey. But having really quiet places to meet is really important. We actually do shut down offices sometimes and say it's a private event to have a big whale come in. We've also rented hotel banquet rooms, and this is a little secret, but it's a good one. We would all come in, say hi, and then like the CEO and I would just introduce ourselves and say, we'd love to talk to you, and then everyone just went around the table and got 15 minutes. And then that opened the door to this big team in Chicago. They got a little flavor of all of us, but we took it very seriously by having a business meeting, renting at a beautiful hotel in downtown Chicago, and having just water on the table and no food, nothing, but because it was a business meeting, and it worked.
That's super interesting. I'm curious now, this is probably going to shock some of the people on the call. How many recruits can you call in an hour?
43.
How many?
43.
43 recruits an hour.
That's nobody answered. Now,
Okay.
if somebody answers, that goes down because it could be a 10, 15, 5-minute phone call, sometimes an hour. But if I am just dialing and I can time block and leave a message, I've got up to 43 because of you guys. And when I was in my old program with the prospect that we had at Anywhere, it was dreadful. It might be, we could get 25 a day. And that's with a few answering, a few call back. You go out, walk your dog for 15 minutes, come back. I am an advertisement, a walking advertisement for you, because my life has simplified, and this simplifies everyone's business. Managers, owners, recruiters. It's a collaboration for all three. But if you were just a single person out there, just recruiting for your own firm, this is a time saver. It's manageable. I love that I can look at my notes when somebody calls. It's user-friendly. It's just been amazing. It's changed, and that's why I got up to 43, because I've never been able to go over 25 ever in one day.
Yeah, it's obviously not less than 2 minutes per per call, and then there's a short voicemail. What are you looking for? What are you doing that allows you to prepare to call someone in less than a minute? What does that actually look like in Corded or in the web?
Yeah, I've already identified them, and
So it's like on a saved search, or
Yep.
they meet some criteria. Okay.
Yep. And we've already hit a liked button. And so I know. And so I've already researched them. And so those are the days that I go through my like list, or I've already put a task list, and then I just start dialing, because those are the people I want. And then there's days that take longer because I'm doing research or adding a new search on your, search parameters. But here's the beautiful thing about that is that if you spend time looking at who you want, and they're ranked, I rank them. We have our 1, 2, 3, 4. We have our don't want list. I shouldn't say this, but I have there's so many hell no's out there. I beg Corded to have a hell no button, because there are so many agents that you just don't fit your culture. But when there's a disruption, and this is something really important too, is that I think recruiting is ebb and flow, as we know, and there's good times and there's bad times. Right now, I think it's always a good time because there's so many disruptions. And we just had one in Nashville. A big company was acquired by Compass. We didn't have to now, oh gosh, now let's go look at their office roster and go, who do we want? We already knew, and we'd already had conversations with them, or I'd left a message before. So it didn't look like a shark going after the bait, because we had already had those conversations and they were already identified. It was a very easy phone call for me to call and just go down at my list of my top people that we wanted, and have that and say, this is a big one and one more disruption in your business. Now is it a good time to talk? Even though they've said they're happy or they're not coming till or talk to them next year, this was a good opportunity. And I flew through our list. By the time the CEO had called me in the morning, I'd already called everybody we wanted. I'd already had 3 appointments set. We were good. So every time is like time to recruit.
Noelle asked a really interesting question around like how much is everyone recruiting each month. But I think regardless of what your answer is, right? You want to reverse engineer. We're going to start to build more of a system as well. Reverse engineer how many people do I have to call each day in order with the conversion rate that we expect to recruit the number of agents we want per month, right? And so I think one of the things that we're hearing from Val, which I'm encouraged by, is in an hour, you could get even just 20 calls, 43 of them all. Even if you can get 20 calls in an hour, it doesn't take that many hours per day in order to have a significant number of agents recruiting a month. And so I think where any of the folks on the call are managing a number of managers who are responsible for recruiting, I think that's what we'd love to focus with Chris on, and in some of the next trainings, that how do we create a system with expectations of top of funnel outreach, the number of people we want to be reaching out to, and how can we do that relatively efficiently? And then I guess one last question for you, Val, is people generally make decisions when the incentive from the company are there to push them in the direction of, for example, recruiting agents. What do you see work well from recruiting incentives, either for the recruiter or for the manager, with respect to recruiting?
You incentives, I mean, so
Like structure, like different financial structures that encourage people to actually do the recruiting. So it's not just a favor to the owner of the company. It's if you recruit, is it sales volume, GCI, company dollar, profit for the
ours
office?
is based, every model I've ever worked with has been based on their last 12 months. Because that's the marker, because you've seen this and this through the market. It can't be last year's, their numbers. They could have been a $45 million agent last year, and this year they're at 12 because the momentum hasn't hit and interest rates are high. And so it's always been last 12 months is what I get incentivized by. And that's my bonus. And
is that on sales volume or company dollar? You don't need to answer for yourself, but generally
sales volume.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
does that encourage recruiters to go after really big agents? Because isn't there a lot of profit in the 7 to 18?
Sean, that's the best question, because it's easier for me to get a 4 to a $13 million agent. So if I get 3 meetings, then I know at least one of those is going to come. The whale is still, which I'm going to definitely, in my world, the way I've set it up too is I get more for the bigger agent. So does the company, but Not really, because they ask for more, they require more,
Mhm.
they get a higher
Yeah.
split. So it all still levels out at it's pretty much the same, stay right in that 7 to 13 million. That is a sweet spot for me. And those are the agents that are, and what I love about your tool is when they have zero active.
Yeah.
I love when they have not had anything for the last 3 months. And then I'm sure they're showing up to their manager as potential to move. So it's a great retention tool too. So I look at that too, and I send those notes to the manager and the owner to make sure that they're, hey, I just got this as an alert that this is a possibility. Let's pop it up on potential to move over at Compass. So we have it. We have to retain as well. But yes, the compensation is based on last 12 months of their volume.
I wanted to, and I've seen, and we've been talking a little bit about some of this, seen a lot of questions on how many calls are you making, things like that. I wanted to just quickly illustrate the point that Sean was making a moment ago. And please pardon this not super pretty slide. But the idea is, let's say there are 1,000 kind of target agents, and that can be based on sales volume, number of transactions, whatever it is. Let's assume that maybe 50% of them culturally or for some other reason could be a good fit for your company. Over 200 workdays, if you have 500 agents to call, over 200 workdays over the course of the year, that's only 2 to 3 calls per day that you would have to make to call every single agent within this 500 agent list. And let's say maybe once you've contacted them, once you've called them, there's a 2 to 3% conversion rate on those agents. Now, it could be different for you. It could be 1%, it could be 5%, whatever it is. But if it's 2 to 3%, that's 10 to 15 recruited agents just based on 2 to 3 calls per day. So again, I think these are the types of kind of frameworks we want to start encouraging our customers to think about, and we will help with this as well, is we can use Corded to identify how many target agents do you have and just see, is that a manageable list? Is that a manageable kind of problem to go down? Or we can work backwards. We can start over here on the right, say, how many agents would you like to recruit? Okay, how many calls do you have to make each day in order to do that? So just trying to help illustrate some of what we were talking about a moment ago.
Totally. Val, 2 quick questions from the audience.
Yes. Okay.
Cassie asks, what suggestions do you have for keeping a solid show up rate for the meeting?
Great question.
I, of course, get their personal email and send them an email from our calendar invite. So I do a calendar invite. I call or text the day before and say, just confirming. And then I have the manager confirm the place, the time, the morning of. So it's 3 check-ins.
Got it.
And then because we had one today that canceled because she's the one that we had. And we all checked in. So that's how we all knew right away that she's changed the appointment. And that's not ever good when they change the appointment. But I would love when they re-engage with us. We had a family in Nashville that their child was involved in the shooting last year at the school. So they told us right at the beginning that their family comes first. And so they've got a 12-year-old daughter sometimes doesn't want to go to school. So their world changes. And so when they cancel a meeting, they'd already prepared us that if they cancel a meeting on us, it's nothing personal. So they engage back with us so we know we're still moving along with them. It's not what's going on. Why did a manager get to them? Did something happen? So finding out why they canceled is huge and reading into that, right? So we already knew why they canceled. They said family first. Then we were like, okay, nothing else. But this other one, we knew there was some hesitation because there was some big news in Nashville yesterday. An owner of a company starting his own company after Compass bought him. And now everybody's, which direction do I go? So they're scattered. And we know that scattered part was why she canceled the meeting.
Super helpful. But it also a number of emails ahead of time to remind them, hey, I'm planning to meet you here, or we're ready for you at the office at this time.
You don't want to be annoying, but definitely, I think a calendar invite does a lot. When it shows up on my calendar, it shows up on my phone it's important.
Yeah. I've gotten this question from tons of customers as well. And this is something that, we face as well, just getting people to come to meeting. I think another thing is just saying, not just reminders, but within the reminder, just like reminding people who you are. Like, hey, I run recruiting here, or I'm a senior leader here and I'm super, super excited to meet with you, can be a good hook to say, hey, you're not just meeting with anybody. I am really excited about the meeting. And here's why.
And if we're going to meet for coffee, I'll say, hey, I'm going to get there early and get us a quiet spot. What may I order for you? What's your favorite drink or something? And it keeps them just little things to remind them that you care, thoughtful. You're getting there early. You're finding a quiet spot, but you're also going to buy their drink. And they may be rushed and feel like, okay, you come in and then you waste valuable communicative time if they're ordering a drink or you're both up there or whatever. And it's just the consideration.
Yeah.
Mhm. Greg asks, what are you using within, I think, a corded profile, or maybe it's Compose AI, when you're making the first phone call, the cold call? Are you going straight off the Compose AI script? Are there specific fields? Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I do have it up during every conversation because sometimes you're just off. Like today I'm off, right? Be like,
Doesn't seem
let me
like it.
go in here and look at something that, oh, I see you did 19 listings last year. That's impressive. Just it helps conversation. Because I've done so much research, sometimes I'll start the conversation like, oh, I saw that you're from Orange County. We're in Orange County. My kids went to school down there or something. Or, oh, I see that you studied journalism, or that you love golf. So I would start a conversation with the common denominator too. But if I then all of a sudden go, okay, now we don't have anything to talk about, I roll right into something over at so always have the AI up. I love that feature. It shows everything that we're already looking at, but it puts it in a sentence for me that if I'm stumbling for words, I can flow. The flow is very important. I should have had it up for our meeting today.
Super helpful. And then I think there's one last question. I guess you could answer this for your business. And by the way, everyone should know Val's working with a number of brokerages, and she has a really exciting business. If you're curious to learn more about her business because you think it might be helpful for you, more than happy to put you in touch with her. So Val, either for your business or maybe for any of your customers, what has been the before and after impact of Corded, right? That's in terms of outcomes. What are you seeing there?
It's a game changer. You're doing the AI for me. It's easy to use. The meeting setup's easy. The drop down menus, the looking at when they were at one company and then they went to another and how they went down, and maybe they haven't found their home if they've been at 5 different companies. It's stuff that took a long time to figure out, or broker metrics, or your MLS, or I talked to a Keller Williams agent. I know, anyway, she was working with the program and she said, when I showed her this, she was blown away. It just is, it's just sourceful, easy to use, accessible. I think when you're talking to an agent and you bring up statistics, they don't even know their own statistics. They don't know that they're up 13%. And why are you up 13%? I want to know what you're doing. You're doing something. And then that's when you say, but your average sales price is this. Let's work on your average sales price. Or are you getting support? Are you getting marketing? Or how's your leadership? Or is your broker on call? You can find something in that AI conversation, and it just works.
Mm-hmm. Sarah jumped in and said one of the things she loves to talk about is the recent co-broke with one of their agents, or recent closing. Yeah, the co-broking one of their agents for a recent closing or a new luxury listing or sales price or current inventory. Those types of things I think are just helpful. We all know we're supposed to talk about and bringing it into one place for updating. And then Denise has another question. By the way, thank you so much, everyone, for asking all of these questions. Denise has a question. How many calls does it take for an agent to come over? I guess they're probably arranged, but I'm curious, Val, from your experience.
Gosh, I would say we have at least 10. You get them on the phone, they tell you to call back in August. Then you get them back on the phone. They're like, oh, okay, yes, I can meet. Then they've got to meet with, and then you find out what their pain points are. So maybe they met with the broker in charge, but they really need to meet with marketing. And so it's just check in. You just keep checking in. So 10 to 20 for sure. And I engage other agents from around the country. I have them help me. I had them help me with one we just brought over. She's multilingual. So I had her talk to another agent that's multilingual in our network and how we work together to share leads across the country. So it's somebody that I just know and I call them that I need help. I need help bringing this agent on board. So I use the whole country.
Yep. Val, thank you so much for this conversation. I think this was one of the better webinars we've had. Yeah, really appreciate it. I want to show everybody Val's contact information. So let me quickly share that. I also am going to launch just a quick poll on the webinar for anybody to give any feedback. So this is going to stretch the limits of my Zoom capabilities. Yeah, so this is Val's contact information. If you have any questions or just want to get in touch and learn a little bit more about what Val does, please see that there. And let me quickly share the poll. Might be able to do just for any feedback.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. And recruiting is hard. But it takes a village, and we're all doing the same thing. We all just are, one brand doesn't fit everybody's. It's important that we're all working together to tell agents that they're actually wanted. I remember I've been an agent for 18 years and I didn't know I was even wanted till after year 10. Letting agents know that you're watching them and you want them is the number one conversation starter.